We're here in Tokyo for some photography with my iPhone. I'm going to be using just the standard iPhone app. I know you can go into Lightroom and you can take DNG files and edit everything in one spot. I find it just from a functional standpoint that it's a lot easier just to hit the camera button down there, or to set one of these buttons up here, or if you have the new 16, the button on the side here. I find it a lot easier just to use the standard app. So everything you're going to see is done within that, and we'll do a little bit of editing in other apps on some of the images, but for the most part, I'm going to try to keep it all in that standard built-in app. This video is sponsored by Taurus, and we're going to talk about them a little bit later in this video. I've been a professional photographer for about 20 years now. I started in concerts and bands and press photos and moved slowly into weddings. And because of that, I've used a lot of different cameras and different brands. And while it is amazing to have that really high-end technology, you don't always have it with you, and it definitely doesn't fit in your pocket like this iPhone does. We're gonna start it off with the most basic tip that I use pretty much every single day with my phone, and it is a simple exposure adjustment. If a scene is ever too bright, like you can see in the background, the buildings there, just a little bit too bright, you can tap anywhere on the screen and pull down like that, and all of a sudden, your scene feels a lot better. So this scene here has a very interesting building at the end of a very nice leading line. And while you can get nice and close to it and shoot it on a wide angle lens, if you zoom in a little bit and use your 2x lens, it makes the scene feel a lot more cohesive, and it kind of brings the bigger building a little bit closer to you through the perspective. And I think it makes for a better image. So if you do have the ability to take a few steps back and get the same wide angle shot you're after, sometimes using a longer lens or a lens that zooms in can actually make for a better wide angle shot. And also, because it is a darker scene, it is important to make sure that you're getting the correct exposure. It's trying to make the scene just a little bit too bright. So I'm just tapping anywhere on the screen and pulling the brightness down a little bit. My overall thought process is that whatever I am using as a subject of the photo, so if it's a person or if it's a building, I want that to be properly exposed, but I also don't want to overexpose any other parts of the scene, so I don't want them to become a pure white. That becomes distracting. Sometimes it's necessary that if it's on a very bright and sunny day and you're trying to photograph someone in the shade, maybe a little bit of that brightness is okay, but the more that you can limit it, the better. The second most basic tip, clean your lenses off. If you're ever getting weird ghosting or reflections that shouldn't be there, it might be because your lens just has stuff on it, so do that first, especially at night, because it's even more important. You may have seen longer exposures when it comes to waterfalls. You might see cameras set up on tripods and a thing called an ND filter that basically is sunglasses for your camera, so you get those really slow shutter speeds. With your phone, you don't actually need that. You can just turn on your live photo, and we're gonna photograph a train here, and then I'm going to set it to a long exposure, and the train's gonna blur out nicely rather than just being stuck in place. Now I gotta wait for a train. Composition could use some work, but you get that nice smooth train. I guess I have to tell you how to do it and how you do this. So you select the train, as you can see, and you press down. Train is moving. You touch this button up here. You come down to the long exposure, and it calculates what moves in the frame. And sometimes it just doesn't work out like this. But it did work out for this waterfall photo that we did in Iceland a few weeks ago. Beautiful. That looks like I shot it with the proper pro camera. And it's just the phone.
Taurus has just launched a new 360 spin MagSafe case for the iPhone 16, and these are some of the options for the iPhone 16 Pro. They also sent me their Glass Go screen protector, and it's a really cool application process. You put this over your phone and the screen protector applies itself perfectly. It is very easy. The screen protector itself is military grade shatterproof tempered glass, so it's crazy strong and effective. It will resist scratches, and when paired with the case, your entire phone feels very secure and protected. The Ostan 360 case is really cool. It's a rotating kickstand that you can set up anywhere. You can go horizontal or you can go vertical, and because it's magnetic, you can actually stick it to a lot of different metal surfaces. It's MagSafe, so it is compatible with all your current MagSafe accessories, and when looking at the case overall, it is very low profile and it doesn't feel bulky. There's also this really nice cutout for the camera control button. I've been really enjoying this Taurus case over the past couple of months, and if you want to get your own, I will put a link down below.
if you're in portrait mode, you can adjust the f-stop if you want really shallow depth of field. And you can also do this after you've taken the photo as well. So f-stop, f16 is gonna have everything in focus pretty much, and then f1.4 is going to be very shallow depth of field, like you're seeing there. It looks kind of a little fake, so I like to leave it maybe somewhere around there. And if you do decide that, hey, I really like that photo there, oh, I really do like that photo there, you can go in here and you can adjust your f-stop as well. So if you want to change it after the shot. So if you don't have a wide angle lens in your camera, or your wide angle photo is just looking a little crazy or too distorted, you can actually do a wide angle photo with panorama mode. So you set your camera to panorama and you just start creating a panorama, and you're not gonna go all the way, you're not gonna do the full 180 that it allows you to do. You're gonna go maybe 30% of the way, and as you go up, if you wanna stop doing the panorama, you can either hit the stop record button, or you can just go in the opposite direction really quickly and it'll just stop the recording there. One thing that I do like to avoid is ever aiming my camera up like this. I find that the more square I can get an image, the more professional it's going to feel. So we're gonna hang out here for a minute, wait for a train to go by, and I'm gonna get my phone as high as I possibly can, so that all the lines are a little bit more square and the image just feels a little bit better than if I was aiming up like that. If you wanna make any foreground objects feel a lot larger than life, like right here in this tunnel, if I use a wide angle lens, it looks a lot more immersive than how to just use the regular one-time lens. There are certain times of day that photos look better. This photo in the morning actually looks really nice because the warm orange lights in the buildings and then the blue sky, it works really well. Right now, it looks okay, but a lot of photography is timing and being in the right spot at the right time. One thing you might hear about a lot, and a reason to buy a more expensive camera, is because you can shoot in RAW photography mode. You can shoot in RAW or DNG format in an iPhone, but I would say overall, the automatic modes kind of do a better job with high dynamic range photography. So the reason that you would want to shoot in RAW is that if you have something that's a really dark space and a really light space and you want to be able to edit it and make those colors all come together a little bit nicer, I would say that the iPhone, just in the straight boring camera app, does a pretty good job of it most of the time, or gets you about 80–90% of the way there, and you can do the remainder in post. So a scene like this, so you can see up here on the top, I have a RAW/max. That's gonna be the highest megapixel photo that this phone can take, but I'm actually going to turn that off, and I am just going to use the basic built-in app. And I would say overall, it really brought that image together quite well, and probably as good as I would have done had I gone into software and actually edited. Your exposure really changes the overall feeling of the shot. So if you are in a scene like this and your phone says that, hey, that's the way that you should be exposed, if you actually drag down on it, it's going to give you a completely different scene. And maybe you're gonna like that scene better, maybe you're gonna like it worse, but at least it gives you a different option, especially if you're after a certain look with all your images, you can make them all a little bit darker or a little bit brighter. Another thing that's important with just photography in general is having a very clear subject in most of your photos. Sometimes it's okay to do the vista and have a lot of different elements in there, but a good photo usually has a very strong subject. One thing that I like to personally avoid, this might not be something that you avoid, I typically don't do any really extreme angles. Like, I'm not having my phone on the floor getting a really wide angle shot of a scene. I feel like while it might look cool and exciting at first, I feel like it doesn't have the longevity of a photo that's just a lot more simple. Few iPhone photography tips for you this morning from here in Lisbon. Number one, if you do want to get very nice tourist locations to yourself pretty much entirely, wake up earlier than everyone else. Today the sunrise is around 8 a.m., so it's not even really that early at all.
Okay, now laugh at each other. Wow, you guys look like Madame Tussauds.
Because we are making a professional production. How much is it worth, you think? Put it in the comments.
100,000.
I use an app, there's probably other ways to do this, but I use an app called Alpenglow to tell me when blue hour begins and when first light is, as well as golden hour, and it will do this both for the morning as well as the evening time. And it's a pretty simple app, but it is incredibly helpful. I love shooting blue hour. Blue hour is what happens just before golden hour. If you're not familiar with either, basically the sky goes that ambient blue, but it matches very well with the lighting that you see behind me. I feel like it just makes a very cohesive scene, and morning blue hour is usually when there are the least number of people in the scene, so you don't have to remove anyone and your images look a little more clean. If that's what you're looking for, awesome. That's usually what I go for. If you really want to include a lot of people, then this is probably not the time for you to get up, and you can be out there for a more comfortable time, which is sunset. Now moving into one other app I use. This one's a little more expensive. It's called Sunseeker, and it will actually show you hour by hour or minute by minute, really, where the sun is going to rise and where it's going to be throughout the day. It does this on this yellow line for today, as well as the longest day and the shortest day of the year. You can also change it to other days, so if you are scouting for something and you're in the location, you can see exactly where the sun will rise. Very, very helpful for weddings and couple portraits. That is not what we're here to do today. We're here to take some iPhone photography in Lisbon. I like this part of Lisbon because it appears to be very clear that they ran out of marble here. The budget just didn't come through, so they're like, how about we make some little paths for the skateboarders? And the rest of it is going to be this weird gravel material. So hopefully they find the budget to fill the rest of this in at some point. I'm kidding, that's probably not the case. That's a nice frame right there. Another thing I'm always looking for, or always happy to include in a photo, is contrast, natural contrast. And online you can look up color wheels and see what the supporting colors and the complementary colors are. If you want to go really deep into color theory, you can. There are books, there are apps, there are ways that you can look up complementary colors to at least get started. But the short of it is you probably know what colors look good together, and blue and yellow look pretty good together. So I'm gonna see what I can do over here. And also the blue hour with this street is really, really nice right now. I'll turn you around so you can see. There you go, there's that nice natural contrast. Yellow, blue. Gonna wait till the street calms down a little bit and hopefully get one down it. Light and learning to see light is, I would say, a lifetime of learning. You're always going to be discovering something different, but I think it's important to start looking a little bit harder at light and why it works. For instance, this building right here, it kind of looks fine on this Pocket 3, but in real life it's for sure lacking some direct light, and direct light will typically bring you more saturation in the colors and also texture as well. Whereas if you rotate this way, these buildings are looking very, very, very nice right now. However, there's not really a photo yet. Here comes a trolley. We'll get the trolley through the gates here. Lighting and the way light bounces, you'll also start seeing on your face. So as at right now, you can see that my face is quite red, and it's because I'm standing near red thing. Then as soon as I go over here and I stand near something that's a little bit more neutral, I get that nice little bounce off this wall that is not polluting my skin tone with the bright red of over here. This works for buildings as well, that if the sun is hitting a big billboard, it's gonna light the scene in a different way. Maybe that's something you're going for. Maybe that's something unique that you can use. Maybe it is not something that is desired, and that is for you as the artist to decide. One of the reasons that Tokyo photographs so well is because of the lack of street parking, and sometimes a collection of colorful cars ruins a scene. If I turn you around here, that's a pretty nice scene if you were to remove all the cars, but I feel like removing all the cars removes 1/4 of the scene, so you're really not that authentic to what it looks like here. But know that sometimes things look nice in real life, but they just might not work out in a photo.